Welcome to Prospecting Pros. I'm your host, John Carsant, and in each episode, we're going to be interviewing sales and revenue leaders to learn more about their path to success and what they're seeing in the market today. My goal is to plant seeds and give you new ideas on how to think differently about sales development. Hopefully, our conversations will help you break through the noise and improve your results. So, let's get into this week's episode. All right, we are live. Devanshu, welcome to Prospecting Pros. Thanks for coming on.
Happy to be here.
All right, so we met roughly 3 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, when you were starting out Scriptify. And I know you've transitioned and you've started releasing new products, but I want you to give us a little bit of background. Like, how did you get to where you are today? Walk us through some of your work experience, and then we'll dig into some of your current companies.
Yeah, about myself, I'll just go real quick. I've been into computers and tech since I was like 12 or something. I've been programming, coding, etc. But then I went into physics instead of computer science, went in to do my BS and MS, etc. in physics, then went on to do my PhD as well in physics, but then I dropped out. And then some things happened and I started Scriptify, which was initially a talk track building tool. It was not really a dialer, right? And the way that it worked was it let you build flow based talk tracks. So, based on what happens in the calls, you can just build those flow charts. And that was going very well. And I received an investment from the guys at Mucker Capital and then slowly began growing Scriptify. After a year, I think we met 1.5 years back, just to see the timeline. After a year of doing Scriptify, I realized that there was a little feature in Scriptify, just to step back a little bit, that let you practice cold calls. Basically, you call someone and it had an AI bot that could talk and you can pitch and then you can make your calls. And it's still there in Scriptify. But that was the feature that I had most fun demoing to people. Like I used to call people and they just loved it because you cannot really do much with a talk track builder and a dialer. So that was the thing that I liked. And then I saw these other companies cropping up like Hyperbound that had just the sales training where you could build your bots and train your team. And I was looking at that and it was going all well. Suddenly, I had a sales call with one of the prospects who was using Scriptify, and they told me that I asked them that, are you using the AI tool to warm up? And they told me something really interesting. They told me that, yeah, we used it for a couple of days. My reps really liked it and they use it for warming up, but then they get bored, right? It's the same damn bot that they're calling every time. And they figured out the trick and then we stopped using it altogether and then we just dialing like normal. So I asked them, so are you just using it to ramp up your reps? They said, not even ramping up because it only lasts like a couple of days for us to figure out the trick and then we don't use it anymore. And at that time, I was building robots myself. So when someone got onboarded, I used to research their ideal customer profile, etc., got their persona matrix, etc., and then built the bots manually by hand for them. So then it clicked, and I got this idea of Rehearse, where instead of building bots, which is a massive time sink for BDR managers, right? Because they have to constantly build bots and then practice bots, figure out how it works, then build bots. Massive time sink. We build the bots for you in an automated way, and the bots are based on your actual prospects, right? So that was the idea. And I also built a Chrome extension so that you don't even have to leave LinkedIn when you're using the tool. So just download the Chrome extension, click call on anyone's LinkedIn profile, and it begins talking exactly like them. So you never run out of ideas or different scenarios of calls. And that kind of blew up on LinkedIn. Before, for Scriptify, I was doing a ton of outbound, so like cold calling, emailing, etc. And I did get clients. It's still a slow growing business. It's not super fast. But since this blew up, my focus is more on Rehearse. We've got 200 plus BDR teams using it right now.
Nice.
And getting it tons of inbound. So I am doing a little bit of outbound because I don't want to run out of practice, but yeah, tons of inbounds for the tool. So that's the situation right now.
So one of the things that stands out is that you were listening to your customers, and then based off of that, you started adjusting your offering. It sounds like you even created a new product out of what your prospects were saying. I do want to dig into that, but first I just have to say, Chris and I could never do something like that where we're just simply, it sounds like you're just simply building this on your own, and that's a world we don't come from. And that is just so impressive. Like the fact that you can do that and build like Scriptify, and then you can also start plugins, Chrome extensions, and the fact that you can build that on your own is so cool. How did you just learn that through trial and error and studying?
So as I said, I've been like a complete tech guy. So sales is more of a thing that doesn't come naturally to me. I can build products all day. I can sit in front of, I live inside my computer. I've been coding forever. I started with QBasic and Logic and all those ancient languages, and I've been doing the same thing. Even when I was doing physics, I was doing fluid simulations, etc. So that comes naturally to me. It's not a big deal. Sales is something that I have to learn, right? I have to hit my KPIs every day. Cold call, that is a hard thing to learn for me, but yeah, you have to do it.
Well, from
So yeah,
physics to sales, man, that's quite a journey.
yeah, yeah,
You don't hear that storyline often. That's quite an arc.
yeah. It's a
Well, I think as you're starting a company and you have to learn it, right?
you
People
have
aren't
to
going to
do it.
come to you and you're forced to learn how to sell your own company and your product. So, yeah, and it's a great skill to have, even outside of work.
Exactly. So not everything goes viral, and maybe rehearse may not be consistently viral forever. So as long as I have the whole outbound skills with me, I can always go back to it and begin doing outbound and still keep growing it. So that's an important skill, regardless of what your product is.
Well, it sounds like you were really early on this, building out this AI bot, because now you see it more and more companies popping up with this where they can train reps and they can get practice reps in before they actually start calling. So you can, whether it's a new SDR ramping up, or maybe it's a new product release and the SDRs need to be trained up on the talk tracks there. You're seeing this come up more and more. Hyperbound being one of the more popular ones, but I don't know. I'm sure there's close to 10 other options out there.
There are other options, but all of them do the same thing. So the whole responsibility for building the bots is on the BDR manager. And BDR managers don't want to do it all the time, right? And especially for an agency like yours. I just spoke with one of the largest sales agencies yesterday. They have 60 reps in US. And the main problem that they faced, they used another product called okay, I don't want to name it because I don't want to, but they used, but they didn't
Don't
use
want to give
hyper.
them any extra publicity, huh?
Yeah, not publicity. I don't want to call out and they watch the video and they get, but anyway, it was not hyperbound, but was a similar product. Same story. They had all their reps were calling for at least three companies every day, and they had to switch personas. They had to switch products. Even for a single company, a company could have two or three products. So it's six or seven different talk tracks and calls that they have to context switch every day. I mean, you can think about a BDR manager who's sitting there. How many bots is he gonna build for each persona, each product sitting in
Yeah.
there? It just makes no sense. So the usage usually, when you buy Hyperbound or any other tool, it drops pretty quickly because you have five bots to practice. So that's why they're actually switching to us from the other product because of that. Yeah.
Is there any customization needed, or is it simply the LinkedIn link and then the rest is history? Like, can you adjust it, the personality? Give us a little bit more on how it works.
Exactly. So the customization is not on the whole building part. We have added the customization on the things that you actually control on your side, which is your sequences, right? A prospect could be like completely cold, or they could be at different steps of the sequence. Maybe you've had some previous interaction with them, you've met with them at SaaStr, maybe you've had a LinkedIn exchange, etc. You can set the prospect to sit at any part of your actual sequence, and it will know the activity history. So it will say, yeah, yeah, I remember you at SaaStr. I saw your LinkedIn message. I saw your email. Yeah. So you can practice those situations um, in the calls. You can also do tons of other tweaks to modify those bots, but the responsibility of building the bots is on us.
So when they have the bot and they pull the LinkedIn, I'm assuming that the bot, what it's doing is just it's scraping all that information that the user has posted over time, and then using that to actually build out the persona. Correct?
That's the sneaky thing that I did. That's number one. That's the data point that it pulls out their entire LinkedIn profile, etc. Second thing that it does is I've got it hooked up to a bunch of these data vendors like Apollo, Crunchbase, etc. So then it knows everything about the company. And
Yeah.
the third sneaky trick that I've done that no one else can possibly do is I pulled out 1 million cold calls on Scriptify, fed it to a vector database. And so what it does is it also scrapes all the calls of Scriptify to come up with realistic objections that these types of personas throw. And it's going to include that so that the calls are super realistic. So the bots can hang up on you midway, they can get distracted, they can do all the things that you expect a real call to be instead of being fake rude, right? Hey, I'm busy at the moment. What's this about? You will hear that a lot in Hyperbound. You're not going to get that in Rehearse. I'm busy at the moment. Just piss off. It's just going to hang up on you, right? And the fourth thing is that we have based it on a completely uncensored LLM. So it's not going to be like, it's not going to not cuss at you. So it's going to cuss at you. It can be
Gives you
racist.
the real experience, the raw.
Complete, yeah, it can be complete asshole and be nice. So it's a broad variation to the.
So new reps are going to get baptized on the first day.
Yeah, you're going
That's
to get
hilarious.
your ass handed to you.
That's actually something interesting because something that I do in my calls is nothing like what you're doing, but it's like how I uniform my data, get a sense of sentiment of all the different calls that I have throughout the day, is I will actually run the video, the transcript of my actual sales calls
Yeah.
through like a GBT or Claude or whatever to get a kind of a sentiment analysis and next steps, what we should follow up on. Do you think that would be a feature that could be beneficial to a model like this, is even after it's at that next stage where you really get to dive deep into what a prospect wants and needs is on that actual implementation call, on that sales call? Is that something that in the future could be built into a program like yours?
Possibly. You mean to base it on actual calls, feed your actual calls to it?
Yeah, and to give more knowledge of what qualifying questions and make the SDRs really go from just cold calling to actual next level account executives to do qualification over the phone in real time.
Yeah, so as I said before, you can program in activity history. So in the activity history, you can program in that, yeah, an actual call has already happened. The
Yeah.
cold call was done, and now it's time for the discovery call. So you can program that in, and then when you call, the thing knows that, yeah, they were interested, they have these problems, etc. So you can do that right now. You can't do full-blown sales calls at the moment, so you can't share your screen and share your presentation. It's going to ask you questions. That is coming up probably in a month or so, though. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I would even think that'd be cool just from a learning model too, on top of what you're already doing, which is unique, is just having the ability to take your Fathom upload or your Fireflies upload and just put it into the bot and let it just learn and actually build out even a bigger persona around that.
Yeah, 100%. We are looking into integrating it with Gong so it pulls your actual
Nice.
calls and then eventually has but it does have an actual million set of core call data already that it's scriptified. So it can then add on top of that the Gong calls and then be even more realistic, I would say.
Nice.
I think you're smart for breaking it out and being a separate product because I'll just use Orem as an example, but I'm sure it wouldn't necessarily be them, but other dialers out there take a look and be like, man, that would be nice to have to offer to our clients, that aspect. And a lot of the dialers don't have that. And so I could easily see them reaching out to you and looking to merge your product into their solution and start offering that. It's
I've
really
already
smart.
gotten that offer from a pretty big B2B data vendor.
Yeah, I think you're onto something.
Yeah.
The only thing is that it's only a matter of time before they start doing it themselves, offering something like that.
Also, I've learned from Scriptify. So Scriptify has tons of features, right? It's like all over the place. There's like everything that you can imagine it does. But the problem with that is not every team needs like the whole set of features, right? Like for example, what Nooks is doing, they don't even mention that they're a parallel dialer anymore on their website. It's like AI agents for whatever. You don't even know what they do. And the problem with consolidations is sometimes you don't want all the things. You may want just one specific thing. And that's what I learned from Scriptify. So instead of focusing on everything, it just does training. So we can do training and it's fully PLG. You don't need a sales call. You just go sign up, begin calling. We've got tons of individual SDRs who are using it at the moment. So that's my approach. Anyway,
What feature are they liking the most within Rehearse?
they're just smashing calls. So the way that they are using it is suppose they have to make 50 calls today. Out of that, they will just pick out like 10 prospects and call them on rehearse. They're fully warmed up, they're happy, and then they would make the actual calls. And we have seen this, we have measured this for a couple of companies. The actual calls after doing the rehearse calls makes a big difference. So they're booking at a much higher set rates. They're more confident. And for sales development agencies, especially, it's easy to context switch. Now you're calling from CDOs to CEOs. You've called 10 and then you're more in the zone when you're making those calls. Makes a big difference.
Do you feel like it'll ever get to the point to where you could actually plug it into a live cold call and it would analyze that cold call in real time?
You can already do that in ChatGPT, etc. Right? You just feed your calls to it. Rehearse does things slightly differently. It's like purely LinkedIn based, right? You just paste the LinkedIn profile. You don't have to think anymore. You just begin talking in under like 10 seconds.
As you're building Rehearse, what are some of the challenges you've faced? And in terms of sales, I'm talking like, it sounds like you're getting a lot of inbound traffic, but what is it like starting from nothing and then not making a bigger name for yourself and maybe having to compete with someone like a Hyperbound?
Right now, we just signed up one of the clients that were almost going to sign the DocuSign for Hyperbound. So right now, there has been no call where the person said that, oh, I will stick to Hyperbound or I will switch to Hyperbound, etc. That has happened to me in Scriptify. I lost a lot of customers to Orem and Nooks, gained a few from Orem Nooks, but it was mostly people who were switching when they wanted annual contracts. With Rehearse, it's exactly the opposite. So I would be interested in seeing what happens later on, but everyone seems to be of the opinion that, this one is far better than any other option right now because all of the other options are the same. So there's a big differentiator at the moment.
This episode is sponsored by Level Up Leads, a B2B sales development and appointment setting agency. Companies always need pipeline, but they oftentimes don't want to hire SDRs internally. The whole process is risky and expensive. You've got hiring costs, onboarding, training, additional spend on your tech stack, a few months to ramp up. And with that being said, SDRs are a high turnover position, and the person you hire might not necessarily work out, so you need to start all over again. That's why companies outsource this. Level Up Leads allocates a team of people, their tech stack, so you can onboard and launch your campaigns in about a week. They set qualified meetings in your calendar so your team has more selling opportunities. Visit levelupleads.io today to learn more. All right, now back to the show. One of the things, for everyone listening and for yourself, I don't know how you charge, but one of the reasons we didn't use Hyperbound was because they were charging annual contracts. Yeah. And with an agency, there's so much fluctuation in reps. Every time we make new sales, we need to hire new reps. And it was so hard to dig ourselves in to a year-long contract with the fluctuation. Now, if it was monthly, we'd be having a different conversation. But from an agency perspective, now, if you're just a company and your SDRs aren't fluctuating that much, maybe you could stomach that. But from an agency perspective, no, it's tough.
Yeah, I know. I have done that analysis, and I was smart enough to come up with a completely different plan for Rehearse. I was aware of this problem where agencies are constantly, because we had some teams on Scriptify as well, who were constantly hiring new reps and firing reps, etc. So with Rehearse, we don't charge per seat. We charge per usage. So we charge $30 per hour, and you can buy however many hours you like, right? So let's say you buy 10 hours, 20 hours, and then have unlimited people sign up or sign out. It's totally up to you. And everyone draws from the shared pool of those hours that you buy, right? And it's all monthly. So there is annual, you get a discount, but it's also monthly and it's also fully self-serve. So you can literally start at a team plan for, let's say, $150, $200, start using it, and then expand or upgrade from there. So that's how it works.
I might have to consider that. Your live sales pitch.
It's turning into a sales call. Yeah.
So let's talk about just lead generation. Like, how have you seen, we could target it on cold calling specific. What changes have you seen over the past few years? You've been in this, you have a dialer, you now have Rehearse. Like, what are some of the changes you've seen over the past few years, and then also moving forward?
Things are not very good, to be honest. With Scriptify, we had to, there was a point where all our numbers were just getting marked as spam. And I own a parallel dialer, yes, but the biggest problem with parallel dialing is you are constantly hanging up on prospects as you dial, right? And carriers usually see that hang up and the call duration as a mark of spam. You don't call your friend and just hang up, right, midway, but you're hanging up on 4 people as you move on in your calling, and you're also calling multiple people. So we've had that issue in Scriptify where calls were being marked as spam. Then we started providing a service where we registered numbers for 𝐸𝐵𝐾, 𝐶NAM, submitted it to First Orion, HIA, etc. But it's still a problem, and the connect rates we have seen, it's falling. And it's not just a carrier problem, it's also that, I don't know if you guys have seen, Google Voice is popping up more and more in calls. So when you call someone, it's like AI picks up the phone and just acts as a gatekeeper. So I have seen personally in cold calling, the connect rates are falling. Same thing can be seen in emails, deliverability. You've got these AI SDR tools popping up, spamming
Do you,
everyone. So,
do you
yeah.
see a difference in power dialing versus parallel dialing?
There is, if you have a phone number that's registered for 𝐸𝐵𝐾 and 𝐶NAM, etc., it's a clean number. If instead of parallel dialing, you power dial from the same number, it's slightly better. It's not like amazing, but it's slightly better.
And what about moving forward? How are companies getting around this? Because cold calling still is working. So what are companies doing to get around this? And then do you think cold calling still the way to go, or should people be mixing in other channels?
I would say cold calling is still the best channel because with emails, you guys have probably seen you have to spin up like 100 domains and 200 inboxes and send 6 emails per inbox to get it to work. Cold calling's still not there. It's not as bad. You can still book a bunch of meetings with cold calling. So I see the future to be more towards cold calling because first of all, cold calling with AI is also illegal in US. So that channel is not completely spammed with AI, unlike emails and LinkedIn, which is completely, I don't know, it's burnt, to be honest. Most people just get spammed on LinkedIn every single day. I get 20 random DMs every day and then just checking in, just following up 16 times before. It's crazy.
Could
But
you
with cold
imagine
calls, it's
though if
still
the
great.
AI was legal to call?
Dude,
Oh
that would
man.
have
It'd be
been,
brutal.
yeah,
You
that
could
would have
not
been
sell
the
your
joke.
product. You would have to go to conferences. That'd be the only time you could sell your product or go knock on doors.
So yeah, go door knocking.
100%, man. I mean, emails, my brain cells are low. I'm as a technical person, I don't know how to get the deliverability. So I've just stopped sending emails. I don't send emails. The only thing I do is LinkedIn. I post on LinkedIn, do a little bit of marketing, and cold call. That's all I do, and both things work really well. Emails, I don't know how to do it, to be honest. Yeah,
Hire a team to do it.
probably. Yeah,
Take the pain off your plate. Let someone else
yeah.
do it. If Chris or I wanted to build a product, there's no way we would try to do that ourselves. We'd hire somebody to do that for us. It's not our world.
True. Emails, especially if you are running an SDR team, you just need to outsource at least the email part. Like it's not possible for people to figure this out themselves at this point in time.
Yeah, I'd say it's certainly become more challenging. Email, I remember when I was working at my previous agency, we didn't even offer cold calling. We were doing email and LinkedIn, and it was working.
Yeah.
In some cases, I had 15 to 20% response rates, sending out less emails, spinning up less domains. It was great. Yeah, but it's certainly become more challenging.
It's burned.
I
The
think there's a
whole
lot of reasons for that too.
I don't know if you guys know about this company. It's called Calendar AI.
Oh yeah, the most
Man, I mean,
notorious spammer.
like they just left it in the wild and it's like crazy. I receive like 3 4 emails every day and somehow they make it to the inbox. I don't know
Mine
how
don't. They're all in spam.
they have all the links and they do everything that's not supposed to be done in an email and they still make my inbox. I don't know how.
You got to hire them, it sounds like.
Yeah, if I want my brand to just go downhill, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that would be the downside.
Yeah.
So you're getting a lot of inbound, maybe, or some companies signing up for a few seats here or there. What are you doing to go whale hunting to either create some bigger partnerships or go after some bigger companies? How do you go about that?
So right now I'm overwhelmed with just random inbounds and people booking. So the call booking is optional in Rehearse. Once your team just uses it, they can book a call and come to me. I've had some pretty big. I don't know how you guys define big, but I've got some pretty big SDR teams come to me. So like people with 30 reps, 60 reps, even 100 reps, not bigger than that yet. But my plan is to again begin cold calling eventually for Rehearse as well, and just make it more targeted because I'm already getting smaller teams in here. So that's the plan, just to cold call, bucket people properly, follow up endlessly, and just repeat the same process like I did for Scriptify.
And you mentioned that this is self-serve, that you don't even need to really have a sales call. But are you finding with like the bigger companies that sales call is still needed?
Exactly. So, for example, when Paddle, they have a bunch of reps, they signed up to Rehearse, they started using it, but then there's an option to book a call. They did book a call, and that happens quite often. I don't know, maybe they want to chat, maybe they want to ask a couple of questions. So I still get a bunch of those types of calls. But yeah, people try first so they know how to use the tool. They're already warmed up, so it's very easy sale after that. Yeah.
Where are you finding the direction where it's going? I know self-serve is obviously the most efficient and most profitable if you can actually get it implemented. But what I see in the market is most people want to sit down and talk to a person, especially when it's a higher ticket item.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what's happening. When teams come in, they use it, they're happy, then they would book a call. That's why I've made it optional. And I have a big button over there that, hey, you have questions, you can book a call with me. So I knew that some people would want to chat, some people don't. I've got individual SDRs booking calls with me randomly. So then I just changed the qualification thing to, if you have a big team, etc. But yeah.
Do you
Some
see
people
the SDR function or role changing over time, or do you think SDR will be very needed for sales development and tools like Rehearse to get them up to speed and really maximum their when they're actually on the phone?
I don't see SDR role going anywhere. I see emails going downhill for pure outbound. I see emails as someone says, send me more information on calls. You send them an email. That works. If someone says, if you connect with someone on LinkedIn, maybe you can email them, etc. But I see email as a channel dying, and people for some reason on LinkedIn think that the fact that email is dying, the whole SDR role is dying. That makes no sense. I think today SDR should be social selling a lot on LinkedIn and then calling. Like they should be on the phones and social selling, because these are the two activities that you cannot automate with AI right now. You cannot automate like a video of you talking about your company
No, soon.
on LinkedIn. Hopefully we
I don't
can't.
know. Some of those AI avatars are looking convincing.
We are actually looking into that for Rehearse, but man, I would cringe hard if someone does that on LinkedIn.
You,
But
you
yeah,
know what I'm seeing too is all the AI automation and AI SDR stuff is having the opposite effect on actual buyers. Is now they're
yeah,
just like getting fucking sick of all the AI interaction and they're longing
yeah,
for that human connection again. It's if I found
yeah.
out somebody was pitching me with an AI, I would just be like, fuck that. You can't even give me your real time. That's my perception.
Exactly. That's why I said social selling. The only way social selling works or LinkedIn DMs work is if you have LinkedIn presence. Like if you have an unknown profile and nothing on your LinkedIn profile, no one's going to reply to your DM. No one's going to accept your connection request. So SDRs today need to post about their company on LinkedIn, or at least have some kind of brand so people feel compelled to reply on DMs. I personally, what I do, or at least what my plan is to build the brand on LinkedIn like I'm doing, like posting content. And then when I connect with someone, I usually send 800 connection requests every single week. You can max out,
800. How do you do that?
sorry, 200 a week, 800 a month. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
If you have sales now, you can send 200 a week. And then I have about 60% acceptance rate because I make sure people have posted on LinkedIn. And then I would just passively engage with their content. And sometimes I would invite all of them to my podcasts, right? So they have warmed up to me, and then I would cold call them, right? After 2 weeks or something, it's very likely that they would know me already. So that's the plan, at least for now.
Are you a solo founder? Are you going at about this on your own, or do you have anyone else like a co-founder?
Solo founder.
As you're trying to decide what features to implement and which directions to go, how do you decide? Is it a lonely journey? How do you bounce ideas off? Do you have a group, or how do you go about making decisions with the direction
Um,
of your company?
I just listen to my customers and just wing it. So I would just push ideas. If it works, if it doesn't work, I would kill it. So I'm quick to kill ideas, and I'm ruthless in not caring how much effort I put into building it. So I don't really care. If it took 15 days to build it, a lot of work, and then people don't like it, I would kill it. So yeah, that's what my approach is. But yeah,
Well, I think
by the way, I don't always go to my customers pitching them, hey, would you like this? I would sometimes just push it out. So for example, rehearse, I didn't go to my customers, would you like this idea? Someone told me that this is a problem. I knew that this was a solution. Then I just push it out. I don't care. And then it worked. It may not have worked. It may have flopped. But yeah, that's how I operate, at least.
well, I think that's really smart. And we've done the same thing as listening to our customers and understanding what's important to them. And a lot of
Yeah,
times when you build relationships, they'll tell you, hey, look, I would pay double if you had this, or if you
yeah,
were able to, rather than just generating a lead, if you could just book the meeting in my calendar, my boss would sign off on that, or things like that. And so you just start to listen and you see
exactly.
patterns.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
also customers are problem aware, but they're not solution aware. So the customers are not always the best people to go for okay, what's the best solution to this problem? They know the problem, but you are supposed to come up with a solution and show them that this is how it's done. So a lot of founders make this mistake where they go to their customers and start asking them more questions than they need to. Like just ask the problem and just show the solution. This is how it's done and test it out instead of just completely relying on customers.
And going back, we'll wrap up here pretty soon, but going back throughout your career, like what are some of the mistakes you've made, or like things you wish you would have done differently? Anyone listening might hear this and not go down that road or make that mistake.
Yeah, so there are mistakes that I made when building the product. For Scriptify, the biggest mistake that I made was building way too much. Since I like computers, I like being inside my code all day. We built way too many features in Scriptify. And I think Nook's going in the same direction, but I think they have a plan, they have a sales org, etc. I didn't have a plan. I was just pushing out features constantly. Bam, bam. That was a mistake. That's not the mistake that I'm going to make with Rehearse. We have very tight set of things that we're building. I'm not going to add any more features just randomly. I'll just stick to what it has. The mistake that I made in prospecting, because a lot of founders don't have a proper routine, right? I would go into my code, fix some bugs, solve some tickets, go back to prospecting, and then turn off prospecting, go back to the product. It was terrible. And it took me almost a year to figure out what is the set of activities that I need to do to book X amount of meetings. And I know it's not obvious. It might sound obvious actually to people that, okay, I need to hit these many emails, etc. It took me a long time to figure out the proper KPIs. And prospecting is mundane and it's boring, and I didn't realize that. I was all over the place. Sometimes, okay, oh, deal looks like a nice company to hit. Let me try to get in, and okay, this company looks nice. It was completely random. There was no system to it. So it's very important to hit your KPIs every day. Let's say whatever you define, okay, I need to do 30 comments on LinkedIn. I need to do this LinkedIn post. I need to like these people. I need to engage with whatever it is. I track it these days on a Google Sheet in a cell. I use conditional formatting for that. So as long as I have left 25 comments on LinkedIn, it turns green. If I've made one post on LinkedIn, it turns green. If I didn't do it, it turns red. So I have to keep the whole grid green every single day, and it turns into meetings and it compounds. I didn't have this system back in the day, right? I was all over the place. So that's
And what
one of
happens if you don't hit your KPIs? It's all red. You start deducting money from yourself.
I don't even take out any money. So yeah, I
Yeah. I'm
but
just joking, but
yeah.
that's good. That hold yourself accountable, right?
It's very
Because
important, yeah, because and you have to log that in, because if you don't see it, you don't know what you're doing. You feel like, oh, you've been working so much, but you haven't done anything. It's all red. So then you see it, okay, it's all red. That's why I'm not getting meetings. So you got to do that as a founder, as an SDR. You need to have that routine.
we see a lot of our SDRs they get a little cranky when they have to do more manual work. But
Yeah,
that's just part of it. That's part of being an SDR. Yeah, we'd like to automate everything, but sometimes there's manual work involved, and it's not a perfect world. So you got to be tracking your activities. Not
exactly.
everything can be automated, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, so I stick to manual. I don't have any sequences. I have my grid that I need to turn green, and I know that I'm going to get 2 meetings out of it every day. So that's how I have it planned. No sequence, no nothing.
Nice. Devanshu, we appreciate your time. thanks for coming on and talking about Rehearse and Scriptify and giving us some insights as a founder and coding and sales. Where can people find you? Sounds like you're pretty active on LinkedIn. Tell the
Yeah,
audience where they can find you.
yeah, I am super active on LinkedIn, and one of the other lessons is important is just focus on one platform. So that's where I am. I'm nowhere else, just LinkedIn, super active. You can just look me up.
That's it. Thanks for coming on. I'll put your LinkedIn link in the comments. I'll even link to your website as well. And yeah, appreciate your
Perfect.
time. And yeah, maybe we'll have you on for round 2 in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to it.